Here is the recap of the first season of Lost. A plane heading from Sydney to Los Angeles suddenly crashes and breaks into several pieces in midair. The middle part falls on the shore of the island, and the survivors try to save everyone they can. At night, they hear strange loud noises coming from the forest, and see something ripping out trees from their roots. From now on, I'll call it a monster. In the morning, the main characters realize that they need to somehow send a distress signal to be found. A powerful radio was in the cockpit of an airplane that went down in the jungle nearby. Neurosurgeon Jack, ex-musician Charlie, and fugitive criminal Kate go in search of the cockpit. When they find it, they climb inside. While Charlie searches the restroom for his hidden stash of illegal substances, Jack and Kate find a radio. They learn from the seriously injured pilot that earlier their plane went off course. They flew in the wrong direction for several hours because of the loss of communication. Therefore, no one will simply find them. Suddenly, the monster reappears and kills the pilot. But the rest of the main characters manage to escape. One of the survivors, a USA Marshal, is seriously wounded, and Jack tries to help him. From him, he learns that Kate is not who she says she is, and is actually a criminal. However, Jack is not going to do anything with this information as he is attracted to Kate, and the Marshal ends up dying from his wounds. Meanwhile, the main characters try to contact someone on the radio, but the signal does not pass. Sayid, being a military man, realizes that they need to climb higher and heads deep into the jungle with a group of other survivors. Along the way, they are attacked by a polar bear, and Sawyer kills it with a gun he found in the Marshal's stuff. Soon they reach high ground and turn on the radio. However, they can't contact anyone because of the constant signal, which is looped and coming from somewhere on the island. It is in French, and a woman named Shannon translates it. In it, some French woman reports that she is alone on the island, and something has killed everyone else. Sayid figures out that the signal's been playing already for 16 years. Before the crash, John Locke worked as an ordinary manager and was unable to walk, but had always dreamed of traveling around Australia. When Locke regains consciousness on the beach, he realizes that he can walk again. He begins to think that their appearance on the island is fate. Soon the survivors run out of food and Locke goes hunting, as he has been interested in such things all his life. In the jungle he meets the same monster, but the unknown enemy does not attack him, because of which the man becomes even more convinced of the peculiarity of this island. However, when he returns from the hunt, he does not tell anyone about what he saw. Jack begins to see hallucinations of his dead father. It turns out that in the past, the man went to Australia because he learned that his father had died from excessive alcohol consumption. Jack loaded the coffin with the body onto an airplane, but was unable to find it on the island. The hallucinations grow stronger, and Jack thinks he is going mad, but Locke advises him to give in to them, as he thinks the island has something to tell him. Just then, the survivors run out of fresh water and no one knows what to do. Soon, Jack, following the hallucinations, finds caves where there is a spring. There, he also discovers a coffin, but it turns out to be empty. Jack returns to the beach and informs everyone that they have a difficult decision to make. Maybe help will never arrive, so to survive, they will have to go to the caves where there is water, and it is easier to defend themselves against wild boars and the intense heat. Some people agree to move to the caves, but some stay on the beach to keep a fire going for rescuers who might see them. In the past, a married couple from Korea had relationship difficulties because Jin worked for his wife Soon's father and did dirty work for him. The woman wanted to run away from her husband, but changed her mind at the last moment and boarded a plane with him. On the island, they have trouble communicating with other survivors as they don't know English, but it turns out Sun actually studied the language behind her husband's back and is now keeping it a secret. One day, Jin attacks one survivor named Michael, but no one can figure out what happened between them. Sun has to tell Michael her secret, and she reveals that her husband attacked him because he thought he stole his watch. Actually, Michael just found it in some stuff and thought it didn't belong to anyone. Jin is handcuffed due to his aggressiveness, but Michael eventually frees him. A group of survivors begin to settle in the caves, and the main characters discover two very old corpses there. a man and a woman, as well as a bag with 2 stones, white and black. Their identities will be revealed to us only in the 6th season. Meanwhile, Charlie continues to use the illegal substances he took from the airplane, and John Locke finds out about it. He offers the guy to quit, and in return, he'll give him the guitar he recently found. Charlie really misses music, so he agrees. Except that soon he goes into withdrawal and begs Locke to give him his powder. However, in the end, Charlie manages to overcome his addiction. Said, being a former military officer, is a technical expert and wants to find out where the French woman's signal is being transmitted from. He decides to place the 3 antennas he has assembled at a distance from each other, and in this way find out where the transmission is taking place. All this has to be done at the same time, so he asks for help from the other main characters. However, at the most crucial moment, someone knocks Sayid out, breaks the equipment, and prevents him from finding out where the signal is coming from. Sawyer was a scammer in the past and earned money by deceiving gullible people. It turns out that when he was a child, his parents were scammed by the same type, which caused his father to kill his mother, and then himself. Sawyer spent his whole life looking for this swindler, and did not notice how he became the one he hated the most. The man's name is actually different, and Sawyer is a nickname. On the island, he decided to take advantage of the situation and grabbed a large amount of useful items from things he found in the wrecked airplane. These items he traded from the survivors for various favors and food. One day, Shannon has an asthma attack, and her half-brother Boone tried to find an inhaler in Sawyer's stuff, for which he was beaten up. Jack and Sayid realize that a woman's life depends on this medicine, so they have no choice but to torture Sawyer. Turns out he really doesn't have an inhaler. However, the woman is helped by Sun, who uses various herbs to ease Shannon's suffering. Sayid, ashamed of torturing Sawyer, decides to leave the camp for a while and explore the island alone. We're shown his background. The man was a communications officer in the Iraqi army and was in love with a woman his superiors wanted to execute. Sayid managed to save her, and after a while his base is captured by the American military. After that, Sayid starts working for the CIA and deals with torture. When he finished his service, he found out about where exactly his beloved was and went to her, but during the flight he crashed and ended up on an island. In the present day, Sayid is walking along the beach and finds a cable that runs from the water to the depths of the island. He follows it and gets trapped. Sayid wakes up tied up, and some woman demands him to tell her where her daughter Alex is. The man doesn't understand what's going on, and eventually guesses that it's the same French woman whose distress signal has been playing for 16 years. Her name is Danielle Rousseau, and she's a bit of a cuckoo. She was part of a scientific team that was shipwrecked on this island. Then they started dying of an unknown disease. She also talks about the other people on the island, which she calls the others. They are the ones who kidnapped her daughter. Sayid doesn't really believe the crazy Rousseau and ends up running away, taking her map with her notes. However, on the way back, Sayid hears mysterious whispers coming from the forest and begins to suspect that the others actually exist. A young woman named Claire got pregnant by a guy who soon left her. She was afraid that she couldn't cope alone and thought of giving the child up for adoption. One day, Claire comes to a psychic, and he behaves very strangely, as if he really knows where she will end up in the future. First, he begs her to keep the baby, and then he gives her money and persuades her to go to Los Angeles, where she can give the baby to a good family, but the plane crashes and Claire finds herself on an island. Nowadays, she has ominous dreams for several days in a row. She believes that someone wants to harm her baby, but the others don't believe her. During the 2 weeks she has been here, Claire has become close to Charlie, but he doesn't really believe the impressionable pregnant woman either. Because of everything that happened earlier, a guy named Hurley decides to make a list of survivors to see who is who in general, so he interviews all the people around him. Soon he checks his list against the airplane's passenger list and discovers that one man named Ethan didn't fly with them. Just at this time, Claire becomes sick, and Charlie rushes to get a doctor but stumbles upon Ethan. The man kidnaps the couple and takes them somewhere in the jungle. Meanwhile, Kate and Jack meet Sayid, who tells them about the so-called others, and Hurley adds to all this with what he learned while making a list of survivors. Several of the main characters run into the jungle to find Charlie and Claire. They have to split up, and Jack meets Ethan, who advises him not to pursue them or someone will get hurt. Jack doesn't listen to him, and Ethan beats up the doctor. After that, the main characters stumble upon the hanged Charlie. However, Jack manages to save him. Locke and Boone are still looking for Claire, but soon it starts to get dark. Boone drops his flashlight, which hits something metal. The main characters dig up the ground and discover a hatch to the bunker. Locke decides not to tell anyone about what they found. Over the course of several episodes, the man tries to figure out how to get inside, remembering his past. Years ago, his father, whom he had never met before, contacted him. In a short time, they become close, but eventually it turns out that his father used him to get a kidney from him. After the surgery, the old man cuts all ties with his son, and Locke feels cheated. Throughout the series, we are repeatedly shown how gullible and easily influenced this character is. Sawyer and Kate grow close and begin to have feelings for each other. Soon they find the suitcase of the very marshal from the airplane. However, the woman does not want anyone to know what exactly is inside. Sawyer and Kate unsuccessfully attempt to open the case, but Jack eventually succeeds. Inside, they discover several guns, as well as an envelope, which Kate takes. There turns out to be a toy airplane that belonged to her lover. From the flashbacks, we learn that he died because of Kate. While Boone and Locke try to figure out how to open the hatch to the bunker, Sayid asks Shannon to help him translate Rousseau's notes on the maps he stole from her. The translation goes nowhere, but a romantic relationship begins between Sayid and Shannon. Soon, Locke gives Sayid a compass, and he discovers that north is not actually where the arrow is pointing. However, the main characters cannot find any reasonable explanation for this. Suddenly, Claire emerges from the jungle. It turns out she doesn't remember anything from the moment she got on the plane. Charlie is upset as she has no memory of their relationship either. In the morning, Ethan shows up and demands that they give Claire back, or he will kill them one by one. What the man actually does the next day. The main characters decide to use the weapon from the case and set a trap for Ethan. They use Claire as bait and eventually they catch the man. Jack wants to interrogate him, however Charlie shows up and kills Ethan for everything he did earlier. We're shown Michael's past. It turns out that after his divorce, his wife took his son Walt and went to Australia with him. A few years later, the woman dies, and her current husband contacts Michael. It turns out he doesn't want to keep Walt, as the boy is very strange and, when he's around, something is always happening. Michael goes to Australia. He takes his own son and flies to Los Angeles, but crashes on the way. On the island, Michael tries to establish a relationship with Walt, but nothing comes out. However, the man does not intend to sit idly by and decides to build a raft to get off the island. Meanwhile, Jin learns that Sun knows English and that his wife has wanted to leave him in the past. Jin realizes that he is to blame for all of this. So he leaves Sun in shame and helps Michael build a raft to save his wife. We're shown Hurley's past. It turns out that he was treated in a mental institution, and there met a man who was always saying the same numbers: 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, and 42. When Hurley got out of the asylum, he decided to play the lottery. By betting on these numbers, he won $114 million. However, after that, strange events began to happen around him. Although nothing happened to him personally, there were incidents around him that could be described as unfortunate. And eventually he ended up on an island. Now the guy believes that the numbers are cursed, and it was because of him that the plane crashed. Soon he discovers the same numbers on a French woman Rousseau's map and goes in search of her to find out what they mean. Hurley eventually finds her, and she tells the following story. It turns out there was originally a signal coming from the island that played these numbers non-stop. Their ship was wrecked when they tried to find out where the message was coming from. Her crew later found a radio tower where they contracted an unknown disease. Rousseau later replaced this signal with the one the main characters heard. Frenchwoman agrees with Hurley that numbers really can be cursed. The guy is glad he is not crazy, but he does not yet know that the same numbers are engraved on the very bunker that Locke and Boone are slowly digging up. Boone's patience begins to wear thin as they can't find a way to open the hatch, but Locke assures him that the island will tell them the way. Soon the man has a strange dream and realizes that they need to find a plane in the jungle. They finds it hanging on a cliff. Boone climbs up, and inside he discovers Virgin Mary figurines filled with illegal substances. The plane was a smuggler's transport. Boone tries to radio someone and even gets a response, but suddenly the plane goes down. Locke retrieves the mortally wounded guy and carries him back to camp on his back. However, it's too late, and Boone ends up dead. Locke returns to the bunker and knocks on the hatch in desperation as suddenly a bright light bursts out of his window. The main characters think that it was Locke who killed Boone, and Sayid tries to find out all the details of his death. Together with Locke, he goes to the crashed airplane, and it turns out that the old man is not lying. However, Sayid learns that it was Locke who hit him on the head when he was installing antennas to find the source of the Frenchwoman's signal. Locke says that he saved them all that way, since they soon find out that that's where Rousseau's team got infected with something. Sayid asks to take him and Jack to the hatch, as they heard about it from Boone before his death. Locke takes them there, and they agree that the bunker needs to be opened somehow. Claire goes into labor. She doesn't make it to the caves in time and gives birth right in the jungle. However, the baby is fine. A few days later, Rousseau appears on the beach and tells everyone that they are in danger because of the black smoke on the horizon. It turns out the same thing happened to their group. After the smoke appeared, the others came and took her daughter Alex, so she wants to help protect Claire's baby. The main characters realize that they urgently need to open a bunker to have at least some shelter from the others. Rousseau tells them where they can find the explosives, and several people go to get them. On the way, they are attacked again by the same monster from earlier in the season, and Rousseau tells them that it's a kind of defense system for the island. A little later, we see what it is. It's just black smoke, which nevertheless can grab its victims. The main characters manage to escape from the smoke, and soon they reach an old wooden ship, which is located deep in the jungle. Rousseau leaves them, and the main characters try to carefully retrieve dynamite from there. One of the survivors dies because of this, and the others carefully carry the explosives back. Meanwhile, Rousseau gets to the beach and kidnaps Claire's baby. The rest of the main characters follow her, and on the way, Charlie stumbles upon the very airplane filled with illegal substances. Soon, Sayid and Charlie get to the place where the black smoke was coming from, and find Rousseau and the baby there. We learn that a desperate woman kidnapped the baby to try to trade it for her daughter Alex, who was taken by the others years ago. Turns out she heard them whispering in the jungle about taking the boy. However, no one ever came. Rousseau gives up the baby, and the main characters return him to Claire. At this time, Michael, Walt, Jin, and Sawyer launch their ship and set out on their journey. Soon they turn on the radar and discover a ship nearby. They fire a flare, and a few minutes later, a boat arrives. However, these are not rescuers. They call the main characters by name and, threatening them with guns, demand that they give them the boy. They eventually take Walt away. The main character's ship is blown up, and Jin, Michael, and an injured Sawyer end up in the water. Meanwhile, Locke, Jack, Hurley, and Kate make it to the bunker and plant the explosives. Suddenly, Hurley notices the numbers on the wall of the bunker and yells for the main characters to stop. However, it is too late. After the explosion, they look inside and see a narrow passage with a broken ladder at the very top. This is the end of the first season. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the like button. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.